So this one's a little unorthodox, doing it from the road here, but I don't know, I had a lot of stuff going on today and I just wanted to get it out there. All right, so I did my best. I was gonna try to do two things for this video. One, get away from the AT box for a little bit, let my brain work on something else. I was gonna dive into the past and the future box. Failing that, I was going to try to disprove Pennsylvania so I can stop being so excited about it. I failed at both of those. So spoiler alert, the introduction for this video is we're going to keep talking about Pennsylvania and why I believe my confirmation bias is correct. And why, if you're anywhere near Pennsylvania, like an hour away, you should definitely go this weekend and check it out. Okay, so here we go. Rereading the chapter, reread it a couple times this morning, and looking at the text, right? Because I really feel like, yes, the map is the major point, but you can find stuff in the text that fit into it. So it starts out talking about defining the AT, which I really like his whole concept of treasure hunts, and that JCB seems to define something, give you your play area, and then he'll go into and start dropping clues where you have to look, right? So he defines the AT. Hey, the AT is 14 states, this many miles, goes from the Blue Mountains to the White Mountains. Here's my childhood experience with it. All right. Then he talks about Seth Gould's box, right? Doubles down on the blue. So right there, I caught this again. I always thought when he talked about blue, he was talking about like the Blue Ridge Mountains. But I recently found out, like very recently, there's a Blue Mountains just in Pennsylvania, right? So it's a different set as far as I'm understanding it, right? There's actually a Blue Mountain, then there's Blue Mountains, then there's the Blue Ridge Mountains, right? So again, that's how I understood it. With all the misinformation on the internet, who knows? But so that got me pretty excited, all right? So I'm like, okay, he defines your play area. Then he's kind of tells you where to zero in, but there's a second layer to it, right? So it's not the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is massive. It's the Blue Ridge, which is a really small section. So then I go back to the map and I'm looking at it again, and I start writing stuff down. I'm like, okay, let's just spend some time. A pen and paper, write everything down. Let's write down all the states, all 14 states, because that's how he starts off. And I started noticing, okay, where are the patterns? All right, there's 4 states start with an N. 3 states to start with an M, 2 states to start with a V. If you count West Virginia, that's 3 states. And that leaves 4 or 5 that have an independent first letter, right? So if you want me to say them out, where's my notes here? Working from the car. North Carolina, New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire. All 4 starts with an N. Massachusetts, Maine, Maryland. All 3 start with an M. Virginia, Vermont, those 2 start with a V. If you want to include West Virginia, that's 3. And that leaves Georgia, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, or West Virginia, depending on how you look, right? So that's where I got the image I posted about the 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the letters going up and down. Again, I'm just trying to get my mind working on something else. I'm trying to move the letters around, more like a puzzle. I don't want to get too far into the anagram game because I believe that that's a separate chapter. With the part 1 lion's share, I believe everything's fair game. Any kind of puzzle is worth it, can work. But with the individual small chapters, I don't believe you should take different puzzle solves or different ways to solve puzzles, cross them over. At least for now, that's how I'm working it right now. So then I was like, okay, well, there's more words on this page, right? We have car, north, point. And I think most people agree it says high. That's really faded, the high. But the car is pretty visible. The north is pretty visible. And point is pretty visible. And what I like about them is they look to be like a font, not a handwritten. They look like a typeface, I think is the term. And I like that because, again, I'm working off of the 3-county thing. I'm like, okay, well, car, Bun, Northampton. High is Layton, Lehighton. Point, I don't have a point county, but I'm looking at the point where those 3 meet. That's kind of a thing I'm working. It's not the cleanest, all right, but I could definitely see that being an explanation, right? When it comes out that that is the correct solution. JCB's asked, hey, how do you solve your puzzle? Well, if you look at the map, there's some words that are plainly visible, and the words are faded, so it means it's a partial. It's not a clear cut. So they're partial words, and you have to look along the AT and see where those words appear. You can find that they're actually counties, and all three of them meet together at this one spot. That's why I put, the triangles repeated twice. There's several triangles there, to get the three sides. I could see that as being kind of a loose solve, right? Now my mind's thinking, okay, there's other words that are also on here. These are handwritten. So I have them on two separate columns, the printed words and the handwritten words. Handwritten words, we have go fetch, look around, and begin here. And my mind immediately said, okay, those are pairs, right? And we're still thinking about the joined pairs, right? So I'm not trying not to go down that rabbit hole too far. But go fetch, look around, begin here. Well, that's a surface level, right? And there's a surface level interpretation. Begin here. Okay, surface level, start here. Look around, surface level, look around right here. Go fetch, that's the last thing you do, you get. If you want to put those three in order, it's begin here, this is where you begin. It's look around this, and go fetch, retrieve the treasure. So those are three clear steps, okay? Well, what if you mix up the order? And what do I mean by mix up the order? Well, so a surface level is an interpretation, but what if you take around, I keep moving my camera because I'm self-conscious. I didn't realize that I'm showing a lot of chest hair, and I thought I had a top button, but this top button doesn't button, so I'm feeling a little underdressed for the public. So trying to be proper around here. So that's why the camera is going to be like on my forehead. Anyways, locking back in, focus. Here we go. So instead of go fetch, look around, and begin here, if we try to reorganize them, what if we have go around, right? So instead of go fetch, we go around. Or what if we have go 1727 feet? So this is why I like that. 1727 is one of the clear numbers. The other numbers that are visible is if you flip over begin, you can kind of see another number there. It's like 19, I don't have it off the top of my head, 1984, 1987, something like that. But 1727 is pretty visible. I don't like making that an elevation or a year. Here's why. It just seems too surface level. Again, I'm looking for JCB's put something out there, right? And again, my theory only works is if it's not in Vermont. Obviously, that's kind of because if JCB, if this is a very surface level map, it's in Vermont, meaning, hey, I'm not a genius. Don't judge me too harshly. This is the map. It's in Vermont. Go find it. All right. And I think after this year or come summer and fall, we'll know that it's either there or it's not. If it's not there, then I think it's fair game to look at the secondary level, which is what I'm kind of already starting at. I'm assuming it's not in Vermont. That's what this video's assumption is. I probably should have led with that. Okay, so if you work out that assumption, 1727 is not a year. That would be, if 1727 is on the map, the first two things you're going to look at are elevation or year, all right? Especially a number that big. You're not immediately going to think of 1727 as a cardinal direction or a point, unless you want to go 172.7. Then that could give you a direction, right? But if you want to look for a second or third layer, you might think of a distance, all right? And I like that because we have several options: feet, meters, kilometers, miles. But if you look at the footprints, that brings you down to feet. So I like that, 1727 feet. So now we have Blue Mountains, which leads you to Pennsylvania. Another thing that leads you to Pennsylvania is the counties. So that's two things that lead you to Pennsylvania. Now we have a distance, 1727 feet, which is pretty, it's easy to mark off. I think it's pretty easy to use maps, right? JCB said he uses Google Earth. They have a nice function where you can use a distance. Now we just have to figure out 1727 feet from what? We need another point. The one thing I like about the AT trail is that there's a lot of points and markers on there. There's tons of blazes. Those are a little bit too common for me to use as a point. There's tons of trail signs. I like those. And those don't really move too often. There's tons of pillars, monuments, survey markers. All those are great fair game for marking because they've been there for forever, and they're probably going to be there. What's a conservative estimate on this hunt? 15, 20 years? Like, they've been there since all the markers I passed were marked like 1920, 1970, 1960. Some were marked 1800 something. Like they're really old markers, right? All right, so where are we going with this? I think I'm narrowing it down. My next spots to check, and I'm putting this out there. So if you're in Pennsylvania, I do not want to grid search the AT trail. I think this is one of the boxes that you can find that you can solve to a pretty close location. Some of my favorite spots to look are where the tri-counties meet, right? So where Carbon County, Northampton, and Layton, where those three meet. They meet a couple places along the AT trail right in the Blue Mountains. One of them is right behind the Blue Mountain Ski Resort. Another one's right behind the Layton Reservation, or right there by Lehigh Gap. And it looks like from my initial research that it's on land that's suitable for treasure hunting, that you can find stuff and you can leave stuff, right? I mean, a lot of this land allows like dispersed camping and hunting, and it's not a national park. It's not. That's the problem with a lot of the Blue Ridge Mountains. There's a lot of that you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff because it's like it's all protected. It's a national like heritage something or other. But I just wanted to get this out there because the Pennsylvania hype is real. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm hoping somebody comes up with something concrete that shuts it down so I can focus on something else, because I can't even think of another box right now. I can't even think about work or staying. All I want to do is go back out there in the woods and check these points. So hopefully this will lead to something. If you're free this weekend, those are great spots to check out, right? The Tri-County points. And there's two of them, just like there's two spots with the triangles, right? Another thing I like about the triangles is most of the time a first level or primary level definition or meaning of a triangle on a map would be a point. I mean a peak, a high point. But they'd be arranged flat. If you look at how they're arranged on the map, even as it is in the book, it's sideways. And if you flip it up to so the trail lines up, it's still sideways. Which I thought, okay, well maybe it means in between. If you look at, and here's why Vermont is so compelling, because when you match the trail, which is 100% match, 99.5 if you want to get technical, the two triangles almost line up directly over the peaks, Homer Stone Mountain and Green Mountain. And one is 2,000 feet, one 2,003 feet. So I thought, okay, maybe the difference is 3 feet because the two arrows are pointing away. So that's the difference of the two heights, 3 feet. I don't know. I didn't really like that. I'd rather JCB tell you to look 1,727 feet away from this spot versus, hey, look 3 feet away from this spot, because that doesn't make any sense to me. You might as well say, look at this spot, right? Everyone's going to check 3 feet away from something. That makes no sense to say, okay, $1 million, you know, do this, do that, hike over here, go find this, and then look 3 feet west. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. But, you know, go ahead and map out on your map 1727 feet this direction or toward this way. I mean, that leaves a pretty wide gap. But the gap is significantly lessened because there's a lot of this area is what I would call, when Big D and Bubba asked JCB, is it rural or is it what do they say, rural or urban? And he said, well, it could be, it's both rural and urban. That's what this area is, because you're right there next to a couple of towns. Lehigh Valley, you've got a bunch of farms. So I wouldn't really call this this area on the Blue Mountains rural. It's rural-ish. It's definitely not urban, but it could be a little bit could be a little bit mix of both, you know. All right, that's a short video. I just want to get this out here because it's fresh in my mind, and I want to try to do a past and a future box video. So hopefully I can do that tomorrow. Hopefully I can get out to the trail again next Monday or Tuesday. If not, it'll have to be the week after. But all right, take care. Bye, guys.